Malaria kills about 2 million people every year. 90% of those deaths occurs in Africa. One child that dies every 30 seconds. Past campaigns to kill and eradicate the mosquitoes have had serious problems, so we are exploring a new approach. Instead of killing the mosquito, genetically modifying it so that it is unable to transmit the parasite. We have discovered certain gene products that are able to interrupt the cycle of the parasite in the mosquito, and that served as the basis of the first transgenic mosquito that is resistant to the malaria parasite. Next task will be to develop means to spread those genes into the mosquito populations in the field.
To see the mosquito collections through from field work and lab work makes the work much more personal, and meeting the children and the people that the work directly impacts is very meaningful.
There are so many people who die every day of malaria, and the prospect of contributing to relieve this incredible suffering and death is very important to me.
Well, welcome back. As you've seen these videos that we've shown you, we know that this is not all that Hopkins is about, and we know that we have such a large school, there's a lot of diversity to it. These are just short glimpses and small glimpses into what our school is about. Obviously, there's more. We know it's not relevant to all of your areas, but we hope that you enjoy them. We're going to switch gears a little bit, and I'm proud to announce our next presenter. Mindy Levin is the director and founder of SOURCE, which I know you had heard referenced earlier. It stands for the Student Outreach Resource Center. She's going to talk to us a little bit about that organization, and then also she's a native of Baltimore, and will be facilitating a student panel and be talking about the city as a whole. So, Mindy?
How's everybody doing today? All right, me too. On this beautiful day here in Baltimore. So how many of you are Baltimoreans yourself? A couple of my people, all right. Marylanders. Folks from D.C.? All right. How about the West Coast? Anybody travel far? Oh, great, great. And anywhere in between? Is anybody here from out of the country by any chance? Okay. Well, welcome today. We're so happy to have you here. And because I do have some people that are here from Baltimore, certainly when we get to some question and answers, if you want to give your input, that'd be great. So as Leslie mentioned, I'm going to just be quickly speaking about SOURCE, as well as some helpful information about living in Baltimore. So for SOURCE, what we are is we're the community service and service learning center for this East Baltimore campus. So we not only serve the School of Public Health, but also the School of Medicine and School of Nursing. And both of their main buildings are directly across the street from us here on the same campus. So there's a lot of opportunities to do some interdisciplinary work between all three schools when you work with SOURCE. How many of you saw the Burger King when you came in front of the School of Public Health? Okay, so we're like 3 doors down from that Burger King in a little row house. So we're very easy to find on this campus. The main thing that SOURCE really focuses on is encouraging our students to collaborate with different community-based organizations and nonprofits. And our sole focus with SOURCE is on Baltimore, mainly because SOURCE and Baltimore is right here in our own backyard, and there's lots of needs. And for some students, you don't have a ton of spare time because we do have an academic schedule that is on a quarter system. So we try to have opportunities for you to engage right here in Baltimore. However, if you're interested in international health and other areas outside of Baltimore, the International Health Department is actually one of our most involved departments. Students are coming, they're working with different organizations that have a focus on refugees and immigrants. And certainly when you're focusing on Baltimore, there are a lot of areas of need. So you can certainly translate those skills to other areas of the world as well. So why should you be working with a community-based organization when you come here? So oftentimes you're going to be learning so much about the theory in your classroom. So we have opportunities for you to link that theory to a practical experience in a real-life setting. I can also tell you that the network of partners that SOURCE maintains a lot of these organizations know when our new students begin. So we've built this tradition of having programs run, new students come in, and they go to the next step of a particular project or continue with an initiative. So these organizations actually crave your involvement when you come to school. You also have an opportunity to do a lot of building your resume, getting more practical experience, so you're having that opportunity to work while you're here. So people are putting these kinds of experiences on their resumes, on their CVs. They're doing a lot of networking with other public health professionals during their time here in Baltimore. And for a lot of you that are not from Baltimore, this is an opportunity for you to learn about your new city that will be your home for a period of time. So to tell you a little bit about Baltimore, it's not unlike other cities around the country. Some of the health issues that we're tackling in Baltimore, there's a lot of diabetes, hypertension, obesity is an issue, certainly substance abuse is a huge issue as well. And from the last census, there's information that indicates that 10% of Americans live below that poverty line. Here in East Baltimore, which is a portion of the city where we're located, that level is at 32% below that poverty rate. So definitely an area in need. Which also brings me to a plug about the 2010 census. Don't forget to complete. All right, so I mentioned that we partner with all these different community-based organizations. In fact, we partner with about 100 nonprofits here in Baltimore. Obviously, I'm not going to tell you about them all, but what I can tell you is that on our website, we maintain a directory of all of our partners. These are just some of the different categories of organizations that we partner with. So no matter what your interest is, be it a particular health topic, a particular disease or condition, or a specific population that you're really interested in working with, you can at any time peruse our directory of partners to learn a little bit about what are some of the opportunities and ways that our students connect and partner with these organizations. The involvement opportunities that we have for our students and our faculty and staff certainly range. What we do is we think about talking with you about your needs, your time, your areas of interest, if you want this to be directly connected to your academics, or if you actually just want a little break from epi and biostats and don't want to focus on those things. So there's everything from just being a volunteer, and it's not connected to academics or payment or anything like that. We do have internships. For those of you that would be coming and doing your MPH program, there's a few different opportunities through that degree program working on capstone projects, and some students are required to do a practicum. There are a small number of federal work-study positions, and these are when the community organizations are actually able to pay you, if you're eligible for work-study, to work with those organizations. We have everything from one-time projects that, say it's on a Saturday or a Sunday, we go out in the community and just do a one-time project. We have short-term consulting projects through this program called the Connection Community Consultants. And there's a whole variety of courses in the school where you are required to work on a project that you're out in the field. So oftentimes we're working with those faculty members to identify community needs that relate directly to the goals and objectives of your courses. So one example is there's a qualitative research course in the school, and students are expected to go out and do some focus groups. So instead of students just going out and trying to find organizations that would accommodate them, we actually work with our community partners to identify what their needs might be. And so that way we provide you with a menu of options to say, these organizations want focus groups on X, Y, and Z, and here's how you can get involved. So it's a great system that we have in place. We also host a variety of events and programs. This is just a small sampling of them. In September, when all students from all 3 schools are back on campus, we have our annual community involvement fair. This is the one time a year that we have all of our community partners come to campus, and you get to meet them and learn a little bit more about what they do. The first week in October, we always host Baltimore Week to get you to understand a little bit more about Baltimore, our assets, some of the challenges that we're working on. We also do tours of Baltimore, and we have some donation drives. April's coming up. We do National Volunteer Week, and we're always engaging our community partners in the work that we do to bring them to campus as well as to get you all out in the community. One thing I'll mention about Source is if you want to start to connect with us now, you can take a look at our website. It's open to the public. You can also subscribe to what we call our Source Weekly Service Scoop, and this is an email that comes out every Tuesday that lists the latest needs from our community partners. We're on Facebook, so if you're on Facebook and want to join our group, I encourage you to do so. And then later this afternoon, when we have the little activities fair from 3 to 5, we'll also be there so we can answer all kinds of questions that you might have about SOURCE in Baltimore. So the next part of what I'm going to speak with you all about today is really focusing on my hometown, Baltimore. So Leslie mentioned that I am a native of Baltimore. I'm born and raised and live in the city. So yeah, I love Baltimore. I think it's a great city to live in. There's a lot of fun neighborhoods that have very different personalities, one from the next. And so what I'm going to spend some time presenting to you all about Baltimore, a little bit about some dialects, some words that we might say a little differently than some of y'all. I'm also going to tell you about some famous Baltimoreans, because we have many great people that are from the city. How do you get around town? What kind of entertainment do we have? Shopping, restaurants, et cetera, et cetera. Immediately following that, what I'll do is invite, I've got 5 current students that are going to be here today to do a little panel, answer questions that you might have about living in Baltimore, and they're coming from different neighborhoods where they live. So a great opportunity for you to have questions and answers with these guys. So this is what we call Balmorese in terms of the dialect. So oftentimes you'll hear people say, welcome to Balmer. Balmer is how some natives might say Baltimore. And our state, you might hear us say Merlin, even though it's really Maryland. And you'll also hear people, particularly when it's nice out, talking about, hey, you going to Antiochean? And when we say you going to Antiochean, we're asking if you're going down to the ocean, which is Ocean City, Maryland, a very popular vacation area, about 2.5 to 3 hours from here. Hun. Hun. You're going to be called Hun a lot, and this is actually a very friendly greeting. Again, very short for honey. Be it if you're at a restaurant and a waitress comes over to you and says, what can I get for you, Hun? You're going to be hunned. And a Hun can also be a noun. And these ladies are what we might call a Hun. And that just means somebody that's really quirky and funky. This is out of like the 50s, big beehive hairdos, really kitsch, if you would. And one of the fun things about Baltimore and our quirky little neighborhoods, in June we have our annual Hun Fest in one of our neighborhoods called Hamden, where everyone and their mother and their dogs and their kids are dressed up with these big beehive hairdos at Hun Fest. So don't be offended if you're called a Hun. Since we're on the medical campus, oftentimes you'll see ambulance go by, which is ambulance. And when we have our clothes that are really wrinkled, we might iron them instead of iron. We're going to also wash our clothes. We throw in some extra R's in some words every now and then. And I'm going to take your picture as opposed to your picture. And then this guy here, he is the mascot for the Baltimore Orioles, or the O's, which are actually the Baltimore Orioles. Now, famous Baltimoreans. There are tons. So my fellow Baltimoreans and Marylanders, I know there are people not on the list. I don't have enough room on the full PowerPoint. But all kinds of people from different artists, filmmakers, writers, actors, and actresses. I actually, ironically, had this picture of Monique up from like a couple of years back when she was just a comedian, and now Oscar winner, here from Baltimore. Lots of different politicians that you might know from the national scene, a lot of historical figures. So these are just some of the people that are from Baltimore. So an impressive list, if I do say so myself. You also have to start to know a bit about our local politicians. I can tell you in particular that many of these politicians work with the Bloomberg School of Public Health. They come here, they teach classes, they connect with our students and our faculty. So it's really great to know who these players are. Our mayor, let me start with the governor. So Martin O'Malley used to be the mayor of Baltimore, and now he's actually the governor. And then you have Anthony Brown, who's our lieutenant governor. We have a new mayor. You might have heard a little bit about Baltimore mayor. We have a new mayor, Stephanie Rawlings Blake. And then we have also a new president of Baltimore City's council, which is Jack Young. And as well, we have an interim health commissioner for Baltimore City, Olivia Farrow. Our prior person is actually now working at the FDA. So lots of great connections and opportunities to work with politicians while you're here at Bloomberg. So let me tell you a little bit about how you get around Baltimore. One of the best things that Hopkins has for our students, faculty, and staff is our shuttle service. Some of you might have ridden on the shuttle today. Did anybody use the Hopkins shuttle? Okay. So this is a free, very large shuttle system that goes back and forth between many of our different campuses. One of the most popular shuttles that our students tend to use is the shuttle that goes between this campus and the Homewood campus. A lot of our students end up living kind of closer to that Homewood area, so you don't have to really worry about driving to school and finding parking and paying for garages, so they use the free shuttle system. There's also some other campuses that we pointed out here. There's an Eastern campus. Mount Washington is another area that has a free shuttle. And then another thing about Baltimore that's really interesting is that Baltimore is called a college town because there's over 10 different colleges and universities right here in Baltimore itself. So oftentimes you'll hear people refer to Colltown, meaning the college town network of all these different schools. And there's a Colltown shuttle that goes back and forth between some of the different universities around Baltimore. Again, a free shuttle service. We don't necessarily have the best public transportation, but we do have a public transportation system that is growing. As a matter of fact, just this month, there is the launch of a brand new free shuttle called the Charm City Circulator that's going around town, and it's connecting different areas of the city for free, and it's all that information is available on the Maryland Transit Association's website. So I encourage you to write that down if you want to have some more information about traveling around Baltimore. We do have what we call the light rail or the subway or the metro, a couple different systems that are going around town. Some of you might have taken the Amtrak or the MARC train into Penn Station. One of the great things about the Hopkins shuttle system is if you are traveling and you're coming from Penn Station, even if you're coming from DC, our Hopkins shuttle picks up at Penn Station to bring y'all here. We also have buses all around the city. It's very easy to get to BWI from campus from a number of different ways to connect. And then since we're right along the water, we also have different water taxis that are connecting from different areas around the harbor. So great ways to get around our fine city. Have to obviously speak a little bit about entertainment. And the opportunities are so vastly different one from the next to learn about culture and the different museums and galleries. So this is just, again, a sampling of the different types of galleries and museums that you might visit. Everything from the American Vision Art Museum, which is pictured here, has some very different kinds of mediums for art. And the bottom picture here is actually several years old. It's our Reginald Lewis Museum of Maryland African American History and Culture. It's a wonderful, wonderful museum that we have here in Baltimore. Some of you have heard about the Science Center and the National Aquarium, which are right there at the harbor. But we have other kinds of funky things. We have a dental museum that has all kinds of displays of teeth, a dime museum, meaning the currency of dime. So fun stuff. For theaters and concerts, if you want to go see some live plays or if you want to see some movies, there are some very historic places all around Baltimore. Very small community shows to larger stuff that might be coming to Baltimore from Broadway. What you see pictured here is the Senator Theater. It's one of our historic theaters where you can catch a nice movie. And on the bottom is on the west side of Baltimore. It's a picture of the Hippodrome, which was recently, well, I guess it's been a few years now, but it's been renovated, and that's where a lot of the Broadway shows are coming when they come to town here in Baltimore. Obviously, since I'm focusing on some community opportunities and love my city, I have to throw out some of our really unique things that happen in Baltimore. The picture at the top is actually from the American Vision Art Museum. Annually, we have this kinetic sculpture race, so people are racing all kinds of crazy things that they've put together. This huge pink poodle is often raced as well. In Hamden, every year around the holidays, between like Thanksgiving all the way through New Year's, it's our Miracle on 34th Street, and all the neighbors on that block have lights lit up. In the fall, one of the great things about Baltimore throughout October, and many of these organizations expand into September and November as well, we have our annual Free Fall Baltimore, where many of the museums and places to visit, the popular attractions, are actually free to the public, which is wonderful to be able to explore the diversity of the city. Another great thing about Baltimore, the summertime is actually one of my very favorite times in Baltimore. There are tons of huge cultural festivals in different parks around Baltimore City. So if you happen to be here during those summer months, it's not just about leaving the city. There's great opportunities right here in Baltimore to be involved. I'm a lady, have to talk about shopping, where you're going to get your shoes and your clothes and all that good stuff. So Baltimore, again, we don't necessarily have all the shopping that you might find in New York and other places like that, but there are opportunities to have some really cute, go to some cute boutiques, and also some of the bigger stores, department stores like Nordstrom and that kind of stuff. And of course, a lot of people are really interested in how to eat healthy. And there are different large stores and farmers markets to go to. There is a Whole Foods market that's right pretty close to campus that you can get to somewhat easily. And here's just some of the different shopping places to go to, as well as some of the particular neighborhoods where there's a lot of those cute, privately, locally owned stores and boutiques that you can shop around. So restaurants, again, for Baltimore, everything under the sun. No matter what you eat, if you're, a total meat eater all the time to a very strict vegan, we have everything. If you want to learn about some of the top restaurants, every year Baltimore Magazine, one of our popular magazines that comes out once a month, does a feature on the top restaurants. We have a lot of different coffee houses that are a little bit more laid back, where a lot of our students, faculty, and staff kind of hang out. It's a great place where you can sit there and spend the whole day studying, have your laptop out, and sip away on some coffee. Every ethnicity under the sun, but of course when you're in Baltimore and you want to eat with the locals, we are very big on our seafood. So you'll hear about Baltimoreans eating crabs and throwing back some Natty Bohs, which is a local beer. That's just a part of the full Baltimore experience. And then another great thing about Baltimore City is that we have a variety of different municipal food markets where you can go in and there's just like tons of stalls of vendors, as well as people selling flowers to socks. I mean, really, really out there, different things. One of those markets is about 2 blocks down the street. It's called the Northeast Market, and it's a great way to be getting some food that's reasonably priced, from very healthy to very fattening as well, and it's the community and Hopkins totally mixed together. So I encourage you to check out the Northeast Market. Again, some of the other areas and neighborhoods where there's popular bars and restaurants. I am a huge sports fanatic, so I have to throw out who the top teams are here in Baltimore. Who is it that we worship? For lacrosse, Johns Hopkins is huge. So we're known around the country for lacrosse, and a lot of folks in the springtime when it's lacrosse season will head down to the Homewood campus to check out some lacrosse games. I already mentioned the O's, and then these are the Baltimore Ravens. We have soccer teams, lacrosse teams, and then the other thing that's really interesting, a lot of our students, if you are a sports buff yourself and you want to play sports, there are some different sports clubs and organizations in Baltimore. And as a matter of fact, some of our student groups actually get involved if they're playing kickball or softball. There's different tournaments that you can get involved throughout the city. So you can be an active participant as well. Another really fun thing about Baltimore is the fact that our location is so close to other fine attractions around the area. So any of these little weekend or day trips are really within 3 hours. Some places you can get to in 30 minutes, 45 minutes to an hour. Other places within 3 hours you can stop by for a long weekend if you'd like to. So we'd like to have folks take advantage of our location. So there are people that head to DC or actually are commuting from DC on a daily basis. New York and Philly are really easy to get to. You can also get there very affordably because there's all these different bus lines and specials that they run, so you can go back and forth between these cities. Also some different vacation destinations and fine national parks and all that kind of good stuff. So great location to be here in Baltimore. Obviously, I have to mention a little bit about living in Baltimore and where might you live. Where are you going to rent? Are you going to have roommates? And I know you have information in your packets about this as well. So what I'll do is kind of just point out some of the key websites that you might want to check into. On this campus, we have a housing office, and they put out information about folks that have apartments available or who are looking for roommates. And as well as the Hopkins Gazette, which is our weekly newspaper for Johns Hopkins. There's information in there about folks that have housing or are looking to share housing. The Baltimore Sun is our local newspaper, so in there are classifieds that you can look up in terms of housing. And then we have a Live Baltimore is one of our organizations in Baltimore where they have different information about the neighborhood, so you can actually read whole write-ups about the different neighborhoods that we talk about. And every Wednesday, the city paper comes out. It's a free publication. It's online and also available in big yellow bins throughout the city where you can pick them up. Again, lots of information about housing. That college town network that I mentioned, that we have all these 10 different colleges and universities in Baltimore, they're also constantly posting information about places to live. And then a lot of our students have also been successful with Craigslist. What I pointed out here are just some of the popular neighborhoods where a lot of our students, faculty, and staff tend to live. Again, what I'm focusing in here are places in the city, but there's also plenty of people that they choose to live in the suburbs and they're commuting easily from the county. One of the good things about Hopkins as well is since Hopkins is the state's largest employer and so many people are coming to this campus all the time, that pretty much every single public transportation has a stop that ends here at Hopkins. So you can commute here from many, many different places around the area. When you come here, some of you are going to have different needs as well. How do you find those places of worship? If you're coming here with a family, what are your child care and daycare options? And then some folks are just really interested in having some green space, the parks and recreation that are available. So these are just some of the different places that might help to point you in the right direction and get you connected to the various resources that you might need when coming to Baltimore. Again, some different newspapers and websites that you might look into. The picture down here, the red magazine, is called Baltimore's Urbanite. It's been around for just a couple of years, and it comes out once a month. Again, a free publication, also available online. We've got a lot of our students and faculty that contribute to that particular newspaper because they're writing about issues that are happening throughout Baltimore and the state, lots of editorials, so we're big lovers of Urbanite. And again, the Baltimore Convention and Visitors Association, that baltimore.org, is a great website to utilize for getting connected to all these different resources when coming here to Baltimore. So what I can do at this point in time, I'm just probably 2 minutes under, field any questions that you might have about Source and getting engaged in the community, and then in like 2 more minutes, my students are going to be somewhere out here, coming to stage about living in Baltimore. So any questions that folks might have about Source and community engagement? Yes?
We're looking to get involved this summer before we start classes in the fall. Is that a possibility?
Great. So her question was, if you're looking to get involved in the summertime before classes actually start, see, we're being filmed. I know to do that. Basically, what you want to do is get connected to Source. Again, you can subscribe to Source's weekly service scoop, that email that comes out every Tuesday, and you can start learning about the various opportunities. There are things to do throughout the summer. So we'll have all kinds of opportunities depending on how much time you want to spend. If you're looking to do like an internship before you start and work 8 hours a week or pick a whole day or just a couple hours, we're more than happy to sit down. What we do is a lot of one-on-one counseling with students to talk about your needs, your background, your future career goals, where you might live and your transportation, so we can help connect you to those organizations. So I say, get connected to Source, and we're more than happy to get you connected even before classes begin. Great. Thank you. Okay. Well, I'm getting the thumbs up that I've got some folks here. So at this point, I'm going to invite our panelists to come on up. Okay, so one thing that I'll point out as people are coming up to the stage and grabbing a stool, we have a couple of different maps, and this might be a little bit difficult to see, but this is kind of parts of the city. What I wanted to focus on, Baltimore in particular, are how we refer to different areas between, is that north or south or east or west? And there are some really easy division lines for Baltimore to make note of. So one is, this is Charles Street, which is one of our main streets that runs throughout the city. And Charles Street is basically what divides our city between east and west. And then you end up having Baltimore Street that runs through the city, and that's what divides our city between north and south. So a true Baltimorean, when they say they're going to meet you at a particular intersection, might say, I'll meet you at the northeast corner. And we just know where that is based on where we're located between Baltimore Street and Charles Street. This lovely blue happy face, that's where we are. This is the Bloomberg School. And then you can actually see some of the different neighborhoods that are listed and that we'll talk about. So I have a couple slides that we'll flip between so that you all know what communities we're referring to. So what we're going to do to start out is each of the students are going to briefly introduce themselves and tell you who they are, what degree program, what department, and tell you a little bit about where they live. So they'll tell you about where they live, and then we'll give you an opportunity to basically ask questions of us. We also have some other folks in the audience. with us today that are here to answer some questions about parking and all other kinds of stuff. So we'll be able to handle all the different kind of questions that you throw out at us. So with that, I'll actually start with Aita.
Okay, welcome everyone. My name is Aita Amaiza. I'm a full-time MPH student this year, and I'm customizing my degree program. And I live in Mount Vernon. What else are we supposed to say? I love it there. There's a lot to do in Mount Vernon, and it's accessible by shuttle, so thank you.
Sweet. Hello, everyone. My name is Brian Gordon. I'm in Population, Family, and Reproductive Health, and specifically concentrating on child and adolescent health and development. I live in Reed Hall. I don't know exactly what your program has consisted of yet, but it's kind of the graduate student dorm for students in the School of Public Health as well as in the School of Medicine. It's actually very near this smiley face, kind of in that Dunbar, Broadway region, so very accessible, about 5 minutes to 3 minutes from here, right next to the Cooley Center, which is the gym, which is also very convenient, and a lot of great opportunities that I can share in the Q&A.
Hi, guys. Check it again.
Hi. So my name is Daniel Savage. I'm in the MPH program as well, and I live in Hamden, which is not on this map. But it's up near the Homewood campus, and so I commute via shuttle or I ride my bike. It's about 4 miles. And it's kind of a neat little neighborhood. It's a little removed from the Hopkins community, but there's a lot going on up there, and I think it's kind of fun. So.
Hi guys, my name is Sarah Cha. I'm in the MHS program in Health, Behavior, and Society, doing a concentration in health communication. And I live in the Upper Fells Point area. Okay, let's go back to the other map. So it's just south of the smiley face, just west of the Patterson Park. And that's one of the things that I really like about living in that area. I wanted to be in a house, so I live in a row house. And it's very close to the park and also pretty close to the water if you want to walk down. And there's a lot of things that are walking distance from there. But I like the fact that I can live in the residential neighborhood and be close to a commercial area.
Hi everybody, my name is Ruthie Fezahazian. I'm a second-year PhD student in the Department of Health Policy and Management, and I also live in Reed Hall, and I like it there because it's super, super convenient. It's the one place you could wake up 5 minutes before class and still be on time. And another thing that I really like about it is something Mindy talked about earlier, is that a lot of public transportation kind of ends at Hopkins and starts at Hopkins, so even though I do live on campus, I get out very often. I make sure that to keep my sanity. I like to get away and explore Baltimore because it's actually a very interesting city and there's lots of little quirky things all around, and it's very easy to go find those things. So I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Great, great. And then we also have other staff members and faculty in the room. I live in Federal Hill, which is another area kind of on the other side of the water. Leslie Vink, our lovely hostess today, lives in the Canton area. Again, we're all kind of focusing on Baltimore City, but I'm born and raised here and know all about the county as well, so we are more than happy to answer whatever questions you might have about living in Baltimore, the neighborhoods, getting around, what you do, what other students are doing. And again, the panels that you have before you today are really involved in the community as well. And obviously they have their classmates that live in areas and they've traveled to other parts of the city, so we can really answer any questions that you might have. So with that, let me take some questions.
I forgot your name, but is biking okay? Is it safe?
Biking.
Yeah, I think so. There aren't on the...
Oh, sorry, I have to repeat the question.
Oh, yeah.
The question is, if you want to use a bike to get around town, is that safe? And Danny thinks so.
Yes. The route that I take, there are no bike lanes, but I found Baltimore to be pretty accessible by bike. I don't ride in the wintertime, and we had a lot of snow here recently, so I haven't been doing it as of late. But I think the shuttle is also a great way to get to and from the School of Public Health. And it goes all the way up to the Homewood campus, and it makes like 5 or 6 stops. And it runs all the time. It's just kind of like a subway. But I think biking is great, and I would recommend it to anybody. And there's a bike rack underneath the school, so it's really cool.
We do have some faculty that also bike to campus. Dr. Bob Lawrence, one of our faculty members that bikes like every day. And there are big initiatives around the city to actually increase biking around the city and starting to have more dedicated lanes that will be for bikers and for buses alike. So, great question. All right, right here.
For those of you who don't live on campus, do you think that it's okay to not have a car around here? Or
If,
not just getting to like the shuttles are pretty good, but just getting around in general?
okay, for if you don't live on campus, can you get around without a car?
So I don't have a car, and that's one of the things I like about Upper Fells, that it's in walking distance to the school. It's about 15 minutes walking, and there's actually a shuttle that comes to like 2 blocks away from where I live, so if I'm feeling lazy, I could take the shuttle, and that takes like 5 minutes. I found it's okay to get around. The public transportation is not as often as I would have liked, but as long as you know, kind of keep track of the schedule, you can still take it, and there's a lot of cabs, so you can take that too. And I also have a bike, so I bike around, and when it's not like raining or snowing, it's not a problem.
Yeah, I also don't have a car, and Google Maps is my friend. I can plug in the public transportation. It can tell me what time the next bus will come, so that's really, really helpful. And I have friends who have cars, so.
Okay, next question. Right here.
Are any of the neighborhoods more affordable than others? Like, what are the cheaper places to live and the more expensive?
Sure, great. Are any of the neighborhoods more expensive or cheaper to live? So one thing that might be helpful, if you all could share maybe what you're paying for your rents in your areas where you live.
Sure. So that's one of the beautiful things about Reed Hall. It's not magnificent, but if you're okay with realizing that you're a graduate student and you have lots of loans and those sorts of things, it's very nice. So I pay about $450 a month. And the nice thing with that is you don't have to set up utilities, you don't have cable, you don't have internet. I mean, you have those things, but you don't have to pay for it. It's all included in that.
Okay, so I live in Mount Vernon, and I got lucky and found a really nice place. I share with another person, so that helps. It's a 2-bedroom, 1 bath, and I pay $505 in rent and added utilities, so it ranges from like, 60 to 100 depending on the month, and that's basically my situation.
So I live with my wife, and our rent is $1,200 a month, and sometimes I pay $600, and sometimes she pays all $1,200. So, but we have a 2-bedroom, 1 bath in Hamden, and it's really nice, and I think it's affordable, but my wife might have other opinions about that.
I think I probably pay the most. I pay about $630 a month, and our total rent is I think $1,990. But we have 3-bedroom, 2.5 bathrooms, and it's a bigger house, and I think that's what makes a difference because it's a row house. And I like having the extra space because then you can host people when they come over and things like that. And I think in an apartment it's a little bit tighter. And I think that's generally about the price people pay in my area.
So in Reed Hall, there's actually 2 wings. There's the West Wing and the East Wing, and you live in the West Wing. So I live in the East Wing, and that's the suite style. So you either share a suite with 4, or some of them you share with 8 people. But I live in the one with 4, and I pay $550 a month. And just FYI, I'm moving to the Mount Washington area for this coming summer, and I'll be paying $500 a month, sharing it's a 2-bedroom apartment with 1 bathroom, plus it has a washing machine, so I'm really excited.
So there's definitely a wide range in terms of the housing market, be it if you were going to do an apartment, if you're going to be living in a row home by yourself, sharing it with multiple people. Oftentimes at these visitors' days, people make friends and decide that you're going to share an apartment together. And then you could find other opportunities where people are actually just renting out a room in their home. So it really varies. Even when you talk about the neighborhoods themselves, you could have such diversity in that particular neighborhood. So I mentioned that I live in Federal Hill. You've got like multi-million-dollar homes to homes that start at like $70,000 to purchase. So there is a wide variety, and there's other areas that are kind of continuing to develop. So there's lots of opportunities in terms of living and what you're going to be paying. So, okay, let me go right here.
So I live on the other coast, and
pretty much as soon as you find a place, your lease starts like relatively soon thereafter. So how does that work on this side?
How early might the panelists recommend that folks come to campus or this area to start looking for housing? You don't necessarily have to even think about yourself. I know you have lots of friends as well. So what was that experience for you or your classmates?
Okay. So I think my personal story is probably a little bit off because, so I ended up deciding to live on campus, and I probably decided that in May before I came. And then I actually ended up moving about 2 months before school started because I needed that time to adjust to the city. But for my friends, they just came maybe like that June or July, and they found housing. I think that was probably a little bit tight for them. I know they were a little bit under pressure, and I'm from the West Coast also, so, and a lot of my friends are from there. So because of the time and because they didn't want to commute back and forth or spend the money commuting back and forth, they waited a little bit, and it turned out okay. But I know for typically people start, some of my friends now are starting to look probably in April, May.
I think I started looking right after Visitors Day. I didn't actually do serious searches, but I just put on a little thing on Craigslist saying I'm looking for a room, and then people contacted me, and I told them on the announcement that I'm not going to move in until August. But my roommates came a little bit early because they're MPH students, and their program started in July. So they moved. I think they started looking maybe May or June. And I'm from the West Coast also, and I came to visit in June to just check out a few places because I didn't want to just sign up for a place without seeing it. So I think in June, I started actively searching on Craigslist and just contacting people and telling them when I'm in town and just making an appointment. And I actually picked a place from that visit. But I didn't move in until August. And I think that only helped because my roommates are already there, and they were going to start paying rent in July. And they pretty much just let me not pay rent for that month, and they covered it. But I think I got lucky on that part.
I would say start early. Some of the management companies that have apartments already have lists going on, and they have wait lists. So if you can start looking earlier, that's probably better. I would also say that you shouldn't really trust an ad. You should, if you have a friend or someone who's here who can, sort of visit it by proxy, that's probably best just to, get a better feel. But I started looking in May, but I was abroad at the time, and it was pretty rough. But earlier rather than later is probably better.
So another question.
Is there any area that you'd say is like a high density of college students, like graduate students?
Where might be an area that we have lots of graduate students living?
I don't know.
Brian.
Okay. I would say, obviously Reed Hall is nothing but graduate students, so you have that, which is very convenient at times, especially during the snowpocalypse when everybody was getting stir crazy in their own residence. You have 200, 300, however many people are living there, people to hang out with kind of constantly. I don't know if you guys obviously have some.
I was going to say, there's some management places down in the Mount Vernon area that are pretty much just a bunch of Hopkins students. So you go up and down those buildings, and all you see are your classmates. And then, so that is, Mount Vernon. Fells Point, I believe, is a nice mix also of undergraduates, graduates, young professionals, and that whole mix. So those are the two areas I know. And then I think Charles Village, and this is just speaking on my very limited experience in that area, that is a super mixed area. That's right by the undergraduate campus, so you have a lot of undergrads. You have people who are graduate students but who wanted a little bit more space, so they moved out there. And then a lot of my professors, they live out there too. So if you want to be neighbors with your teacher.
All right, next question. Let's go right here.
So in different areas and also around the campus, what kind of precautions do you take for safety? I mean, obviously it's the city, you'll have to wander downtown like by yourself, but different public transportation options and neighborhoods, what precautions?
Great. What kind of precautions might you take when getting around the city in terms of security and safety?
Okay, so I take public transportation all the time. And so personally, I have my little routine where you don't look like you're flashing anything. So every time if I'm riding public transportation, I make sure that, my purse is, normal, not wearing anything too flashy. And I personally tend to sit towards the front of the bus or the metro, like closer to the driver, just because that's a personal thing. But when it comes to walking around here in the evening, usually either I walk with a friend or you call the security's escort service. They have where a security guard can come walk you within a certain distance around the school. But other than that, when in doubt, just take a cab.
Yeah, for me, I don't walk around too much at night, especially not alone. And I'm from LA, so I'm pretty used to being in a dangerous area, I guess. But I mean, I didn't think it was that bad. Just my classes are usually finished before 5, before it gets too dark, and usually I just go home. And then if I go out anywhere, I go from there. And if I have any evening classes, usually I go home with friends who live in the area. And there are a lot of students who live in my area. And there's also a shuttle service that you can take, so you don't have to be out too late on your own, I don't think.
Right here.
I'll be commuting from Bethesda, so I was wondering about the parking situation.
Parking. Okay. So for parking, I'm actually going to turn to my colleague, Scott McVicker, because he can answer everything you need to know about parking. So I'll invite him up to tell you about what's available and the rates, because he knows all that stuff.
Yeah. Well, the good news is we did get 80 inches of snow. Wow, that's bright. We did get 80 inches of snow this year, which means those of you who are coming in, that means the next 4 years will get none, because we only average about 18 inches a year. As far as parking goes, you have two options. Your first option is going to be Church Home. Church Home is a garage. We have about 225 spaces there. We subsidize your parking. It's $50 a month. And if you can pop up the map, Church Home is on East Baltimore Street between Broadway and Caroline. So it's a bit closer to the hospital side. It's on the actual, it's on the west side. And that's a nice place because you can pull in and then you shuttle from there. And you know, for $50, it's a great deal to be able to be out of the elements. Your other option, and that's why we hold so many spaces there too, by the way. The other option is down on Monument Street. It's in the 3700 block. So you're currently in like the 1900 block of Monument Street. So it's about, you know, 1.5 miles or so away. And we have a boatload of spaces there as well. It's also $50, but not as many students tend to park there because most are commuting from the other direction. But it's actually quite convenient for those of you who might be driving in from DC because it's right off of 895 in Erdman Avenue. So it's a very convenient off of 895 route, or if you're coming in from the areas like White Marsh. So for those of you who are married or buying houses or planning on planning routes here, you know, it's another option as well. But both locations you do commute to there and then you shuttle from there. We do have a number of students who do walk from Church Home as well. But again, you know, you're just off the campus perimeter, so if you're going to be walking, you're probably not going to be walking alone because there's going to be groups of you coming across, and you're within a block of the campus. And just so you understand the campus distinction, there are blue boxes where the security officers sit. That's when you're on campus. When you start seeing those and you're inside of that area, in that perimeter, so basically, you know, kind of around this area through here, gives you an idea. That's kind of like on campus for East Baltimore. Once you go past the blue boxes, you're off campus. And again, you know, most of the issues that we have from a security standpoint generally do occur off campus. On campus is incredibly safe. It's kind of like the little oasis. But you know, it's still, as the students have told you, and they live out in the community as well, you know, common sense applies. You know, just be smart.
Okay, right here. Another question about safety, are there neighborhoods that are not safe to live in? So one thing about that to respond to is that, you know, things happen in every single neighborhood, so it'd be really difficult to say here is safe and here is dangerous because there are incidents that happen in the suburbs and in every single community. What we can tell you is popular areas where the students tend to live. So the popular areas where the students tend to live, we've already kind of been talking about. We've been throwing out names like Charles Village, Mount Vernon, Fells Point, Patterson Park. There's some in Canton. There's some in Federal Hill. I mean, there's people that live in the heart of downtown as well. But even when I say those neighborhoods to you, I can't stand here before you and say, that is a safe neighborhood, don't worry about anything. You are in a city, so it's like other cities. And for some folks that have never lived in a city before, it might be a new experience. So there's opportunities to learn a little bit about getting some street smarts as well. And so a lot of the panelists talked about the fact that you don't really go walking around at night by yourself, walk with other people. And so that's just a really good rule of thumb to utilize. So I wouldn't ever label any area particularly safe or unsafe, but those are the areas where a lot of the students tend to live. Other quick thoughts or? Ditto. Great.
Just to follow up on the parking, you can park around the school too. I don't know if that's university approved or not, but like when I drive my car, I just park on the street. There's like a big open field where they're developing something, and so all those spaces are free. I usually park around there. You would follow up with that, yeah?
He's absolutely right. And the big open space is the area that they're not developing because the economy went south, and the mixed-use property is now a really big field. You can't park in the field, which is unfortunate, because free parking is always great. It's actually the area he's talking about is right down North Washington Street, and there's a big field down in through this area where they had torn down some project housing and things like that. And so, yes, you can park there. If you were here during the snow, you couldn't. Yeah. And that's one of the interesting things about the city is that they did a great job getting the roads done, but there was still no place to park, and so that made it a little bit more difficult. Again, same thing there. You're in the city. GPS units disappear. Handicap parking tags disappear from cars. So if you are going to park on the street and you are off campus, make sure you, first of all, are very aware of the signage, making sure what you leave visible, because most crimes occur because they're opportunistic, not because they're really looking for your specific car or what's may particularly be in it. So if you leave it out where they can see it, then that's when you're going to probably become more of a target than others. But no, there's absolutely no reason why you can't park on the street. There's plenty of spots to do that.
And that's a huge point about stuff in your car. So again, I told you I'm from Baltimore, live here all my life, and I don't have a parking spot. I just park on my street in my neighborhood, and you leave your car empty. Don't have anything hidden in there. Don't leave your laptop in there. Just take it all into where you're living, because if they see something, they can break into your car, and that's just like anywhere that you live. But again, try to leave your car empty. Even loose change that might be sitting around. Somebody needs money. Thank you. Break that window. Okay. Right here in the blue.
What about commuting from DC? Do a lot of people do it? Is it convenient? Via train?
Great. Are there folks that are commuting from DC? Definitely there are. Most of them do utilize the train coming back and forth and go to Penn Station, and then our shuttle picks up there. Anybody have any friends that are commuting from DC that want to add anything?
So in my cohort, there's 14 of us, and 3 of them commute from DC, and 2 of them take the MARC train every day and hop the shuttle, and then 1 of them drives.
So doable. Yeah, definitely. Okay. Right here. Okay, she's got it. Okay, I'll have you, and then you next. Go ahead. Are there neighborhoods that are particularly walkable in terms of sidewalks? Are you talking about just in general or walkable to here?
In general, just on the weekend you want to walk.
Okay, great. Any of the neighborhoods that you'd say are particularly walkable for a nice afternoon stroll? Okay, Leslie.
I have a dog, and I walk all the time. And basically, especially along the neighborhoods around the harbor, and even Fells Point, Canton, Federal Hill, anywhere around the city, there is what's it called? A big path that just goes literally the whole way around the harbor. My dog is very energetic, so we do like 3-hour walks, and it's beautiful. Like, it's nice to go at night. It's nice to go, during the day, on the weekends or whatever. And it kind of takes you through all of the neighborhoods too, which is very nice.
I think too the Homewood, Hamden area. It's where the undergraduate campus is, and it's really nice. There are a lot of parks and sidewalks and things like that.
I would say all of the areas are pretty walkable. I mean, living at Reed Hall, I frequently walk down to Patterson Park, so you're walking we frequently walk to Fells Point at night on the weekends and stuff like that, as well as Patterson Park. There's always a lot of activities, different sports and stuff like that you can get engaged in and walk around.
I'm in the MPH
Okay, so the question was, if you're in a dual degree program commuting back and forth between two different campuses, what advice might you have?
Well, I was just going to say specifically for the Cary Business School, it's right off of the Charles Center metro stop, and then we're at the Hopkins metro stop, so it's literally 2 metro stops, and it's like right in front of it. So, I mean, sometimes I have to go down there for meetings, and it's super easy to get down to at least the Cary Business School. And then at least to go from people, some programs have to take classes at Homewood, and people usually utilize the shuttle that way.
Okay, all in the back.
I have 2 questions. One is how late does the shuttle run?
Right.
And the second one is, like, this is the first time I've ever been in Baltimore. I don't know anyone here, and I don't know anyone else who's coming here. So in terms of finding a roommate, how does that, does the school help you out?
Okay, so the first question is, what are the hours that the shuttle runs back and forth, as well as is there opportunities to help people find roommates when you're living here, especially when you don't know anybody in our brand new city? So shuttle hours, anybody know them off the top of their head, or do I get Scott back up here?
It's like 11 or 12.
Yeah, it's 11.
It depends on the night.
Yeah.
So depending on what night it is, I think on Saturday it's earlier.
Yeah,
One day
Saturday.
it's earlier, and then a lot of times it's about midnight.
And tips on finding a roommate?
So finding a roommate, utilize everything that you have access to. So Facebook is a good thing. A lot of people are already joining. If you don't have a group already for your incoming class, look up that. Depends on who you want to live with. If you're looking at, community members or other students, look at some of the forums on the other school websites. So School of Nursing, the Homewood campus might have some forums of people just sharing, my lease is up this June, looking for someone to replace it. So just, put your feelers out.
I think on the shuttle schedule part, it's different for each shuttle. So most of the shuttle that people are talking about is the one between here and Homewood. The one I take is different. It's a smaller one that comes down to my neighborhood, and that has very specific hours between like 6:30 to 10 in the morning, and then like 3:30 to 7:30 or something like that. But I mean, they have the schedule online, so you can always check the schedule online depending on the shuttle. And as for looking for people to live with my cohort, they gave us our email address a couple months before school, so we started emailing each other. So I know people who found each other that way. I found my roommates through Craigslist, but I looked for postings that said like Hopkins students, things like that, because I wanted to live with other students. And my 2 roommates found each other through the MPH listserv, and I know a lot of people who did that as well.
All right, I think I have time for maybe 2 more really good questions, and then the hands go down. So I'll take another question from your here.
Okay, I have kind of 2 things. The shuttle that you're talking about, the Hopkins shuttle?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and is it free?
The Hopkins shuttles are all free.
Okay.
Yes.
And parking as far as at apartment complexes or wherever you all live, is that, not that you're commuting from like DC or whatever, but just to have your car here, is it difficult to have a spot at your place?
The next question is about parking if you're living off campus and you need to park there at the apartment complexes. That certainly varies. Oftentimes there's just street parking and you don't have a designated spot. Usually when there is an apartment complex that has its own parking, you do have to pay a fee for that garage as well. Other thoughts about parking off campus?
Yeah. I have 2 spaces in our apartment, and it was really easy to find parking.
And Danny is
up in
selling
apartments.
2 spots.
Yeah. And also with the roommate question earlier, the school does a really great job of putting you all in touch with each other. So you're going to be on a listserv, and you're going to be getting inundated with emails from the group like, hey, I'm 28 years old, and I like long walks, and I don't like to go out on, and it's really easy to find roommates that way. So the school is really helpful in facilitating that.
Okay, I got the word. One last question, right in the back. Yes.
Could either of you talk about the experience of gay or lesbian students, either yourself or a friend, in terms of resources, safety, entertainment?
Great. So the question was, can you talk about any resources in terms of the gay lesbian community?
I have friends who love Mount Vernon specifically for that reason. There are a lot of bars and clubs that are gay friendly, so that's a good neighborhood to look into if you're looking for others.
Another really good resource in Baltimore is that we have the Gay Lesbian Community Center of Baltimore, and it's one of the organizations that we partner with, so they have all kinds of resources. There's also a newspaper as well that's particularly focused on the gay lesbian community as well. There's also the Gertrude Stein student group, which is amongst all 3 schools, as well as faculty and staff. So there's a listserv to get on that is all of our gay, lesbian, transgender, bisexual folks that are on that particular listserv. So there, yes, there's lots of resources that are gay friendly. Thanks.
So can I ask a quick yes or no question?
Yeah.
Is there a
No.
Is there no?
No, just kidding.
Is there like a map or something that has all the shuttle routes and times?
Yes, there is. Scott will tell you.
Yeah. Hello again. Yes, there is. There's actually, if you can go to the Support Services website, look under Parking Transportation, so it's jhsvh.edu and /support services, and you can click on Parking and Transportation, and you can get to every single shuttle, regardless of which campus it goes to there. Did you also talk about the Charm City Circulator? Okay, good, because that's another, for those of you who are looking at Fells Point, Canton area, that's going to actually start coming to Hopkins in April, and so that's going to be another great free ride option for you, in addition to the Hopkins shuttle, and might actually alleviate some of the stress on that one too. So.
So with that, we're going to close. If you have questions, you want to come up and ask us, grab us for a few minutes. We're happy to entertain your questions. And again, when you're with your department for the rest of the day, you'll have opportunities to ask these questions. So thank you, panelists, for being with us.
Thank you. Okay, everybody, sit tight for just a second. I have a list of announcements to make. As you can see on your agenda, the afternoon is kind of broken up into a couple different segments. The major one being your departmental breakout sessions and lunches. So what you're going to be doing is going up to Finestone Hall. You're going to pick up where breakfast was served. You're going to pick up a boxed lunch, take that with you to your location that's listed on the agenda. MPH students will stay in Finestone. Everybody else will go to their assigned place. Your health policy and management and mental health, you will be meeting in Hampton House, which is actually a couple blocks down the road. So we do have meeting points for those. Let me see. Hampton House will be meeting in front of the Wall of Wonder, that's health policy and management. And then mental health will be meeting out where you picked up your packets. It's all in the gallery there, so we'll have escorts that will take you down to Hampton House. The afternoon, we also will be offering campus tours. Something that's important to note about your departmental session is that it starts at 12:30 and it ends at different times. So some of you may be done at 2, some of you may be done at 4, some of you may be done later. So it really depends what your department. They have all different, their own things all planned out for this afternoon. The campus tours are available if you are free and you can come down. We will be giving those from 2 to 5 o'clock, and the last one will begin at 4:30. There's also a personal walking tour that's in your packet. If you're not able to make it to a campus tour, you're more than welcome to kind of follow that through. It walks you through the building and actually goes into the medical campus too. Lastly, you will see that there are some diversity ambassadors that are actually current students, and they're kind of mingling around. They'll be on the campus tours. Some of them were at breakfast. So feel free to ask them questions too. They're current students, and they're there for you, so pick their brains as well. And one more thing before lastly, there's also an information fair that will be held out here where that big screen, and that's what I'm referring to as the Wall of Wonder. We're going to have different student affairs organizations and offices there, as also some information on living in Baltimore. We'll get to meet a couple more students. So take advantage of those resources if you have time. We want to provide as much as we can for you, so feel free to grab any of us as you're moving throughout the building from the rest of the day. And now is the last thing, I promise. For Population, Family, and Reproductive Health Department, it's listed as E4611 on the agenda. You will now be meeting at E4040. Okay? So thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed the morning sessions. I'm sure you're all hungry and ready to stretch your legs. So enjoy the afternoon, and I hope you have a great day. Thank you.